Have you ever heard an engine note so smooth it sounded like a sewing machine, but pulled like a rocket? What if I told you the bike that made that noise didn't just change the roads, it changed the entire motorcycle world? When Honda released the CB750 in 1969, it wasn't just another motorcycle, it was a technological earthquake. Before this machine, superbikes didn't exist. After it, everyone was chasing the formula. Today, we're counting down 20 weird facts about the Honda CB750, the first superbike. From hand-cast engine cases to secret racing wins and backyard tuning revolutions, this bike has stories stranger than fiction. Some details are buried in factory lore, others in oil-stained garages. By the end of this countdown, you'll know why the CB750 didn't just start a new era, it buried the old one. Buckle your helmet, the revolution begins with number 20. Number 20. The sandcast secret that launched a revolution. The earliest Honda CB750 engines were literally built in sand. In 1969, Honda engineers, unsure of demand, used sand casting to produce the first batch of engine cases. It was quick, flexible, and cheap, but left a slightly rough texture on each part. Nobody knew these imperfections would become gold dust for collectors decades later. Only a few thousand sand-cast CBS exist, easily spotted by their softer case lines, unique fasteners, and subtle surface grain. Honda soon switched to die casting for smoother finishes once demand exploded, but those early hand-shaped molds marked the beginning of a motorcycling dynasty. Each engine carried tiny differences, slightly misaligned bolt holes, faint parting seams, even hand-finished oil passages, that made every early unit one of a kind. Ironically, a method chosen for speed and convenience gave birth to the rarest production superbike variant in history. Today, restorers study these small clues like archaeologists decoding relics of an industrial miracle. The sandcast CB750 is now whispered among enthusiasts with the same reverence reserved for vintage Ferraris. Number 19. The price tag that shook the world. When Honda priced the CB750, the real shock wasn't under the tank. It was on the price tag. In 1969, for roughly the same cost as a British twin, riders could buy an inline-4 motorcycle with an electric starter, front disc brake, and the refinement of a car engine. It was like finding a Ferrari for the cost of a Ford. The move wasn't accidental. Honda's founder, Soichiro Honda, wanted to prove high technology could be affordable for everyday riders. The result was a revolution that bankrupted several competitors. Triumph and BSA simply couldn't match the value or reliability. Riders who used to carry toolkits just to make it home now trusted Honda to start every morning, rain or shine. Reviewers called it the motorcycle that ended the British Empire on two wheels. Even drag racers and commuters lined up for one machine that did everything. This pricing strategy turned a superbike into a cultural event, giving riders a taste of precision engineering at working-class wages. The CB750 didn't just sell motorcycles, it sold trust. That single decision rewrote marketing, engineering, and expectation across the industry. Number 18. The race bike that wasn't supposed to win. In 1970, Honda's endurance experiment, the CR750, arrived at Daytona with more doubt than confidence. Mechanics had converted CB750 road bikes into racers overnight, adding lightweight tanks and open exhausts. Most expected engine failures. Instead, American legend Dick Mann rode one to victory at the Daytona 200, shocking everyone, including Honda's own engineers. It was a triumph built on improvisation, hastily welded frames, piston swaps, and safety wires everywhere. But Mann's mechanical sympathy coaxed the fragile machine through 200 miles of banking and heat. That win transformed Honda's polite street machine into a racing icon and officially birthed the term superbike. Privateers worldwide began hot-rodding CBs into cafe racers and drag monsters. In garages from Tokyo to London, mechanics learned that this was an engine that wanted to race. It just needed a patient hand. The CR750's success at Daytona became folklore, proving that reliability and speed could coexist. Honda had unwittingly created a machine that united tinkerers, racers, and dreamers. Number 17. The disc brake that changed everything. The CB750 introduced a feature most riders had never seen outside a racetrack, a hydraulic front disc brake. Before that, drum brakes ruled the roads, heavy, unpredictable, and terrifying in the rain. Honda's gleaming single-disc system was space-age by comparison. It gave consistent stopping power, wet or dry, and forced every competitor to rethink what safe meant. Riders who once prayed for drum bite now feathered levers with surgical precision. But this innovation created new rituals too. Bleeding brakes, replacing pads, and worrying about seals. Alien concepts to many backyard mechanics. Honda dealerships even held workshops to teach riders fluid maintenance. The weirdest part? Police departments at first rejected the new technology, insisting on drums until officers could retrain their reflexes. Within a few years, every serious manufacturer had copied Honda's design. The CB750 had quietly redefined performance, not through speed, but control. It wasn't just faster, it was smarter. Number 16, the bike that invented the aftermarket. Before the CB750, customizing meant improvisation. After it, an entire industry was born. The bike's balance of reliability and performance invited experimentation. Builders realized they could chase power without constant breakdowns. Soon, companies like Dunstall in the UK and Yoshimura in Japan turned the CB into a blank canvas for creativity. Riders bolted on 4-into-1 exhausts, rear sets, fairings, and racing cams. Cafe racers roared through London, drag racers lit up quarter miles, touring riders added luggage and oil coolers. This single motorcycle created the modern idea of personalization. One platform, infinite identities. Even chopper builders welded rigid tails to CB frames, proving that its inline-4 could power rebellion as easily as refinement. Manuals, magazines, and catalogs taught owners to tune carbs and sync valves from their garages. The CB750 transformed riders into mechanics and mechanics into engineers. Decades later, that do-it-yourself spirit still defines motorcycling culture. Number 15, the exhaust symphony that defined an era. Long before digital rev limiters and synthetic soundtracks, the CB750 composed its own music, 4 cylinders breathing through 4 pipes, weaving a melody no other street bike could match. In 1969, when riders first rolled open the throttle, the inline-4 delivered a silky, ascending howl that started civil and ended symphonic. The weird part, that unforgettable sound wasn't planned. Honda engineers had tuned the exhaust for balance and flow, not fame. Yet, the combination of firing order, pipe length, and subtle resonance created a tone halfway between a Grand Prix screamer and a turbine. Riders said it felt alive, as if the engine hummed in harmony with the road. Crowds could identify a CB750 by ear long before it came into view. That soundtrack rewired what performance meant. Speed became emotional. Mechanical music became identity. Customizers soon turned it into art, experimenting with 4-into-1 systems that amplified the mid-range wail and sparked the golden age of exhaust tuning. Magazines described it as a jet engine on 2 wheels, while musicians compared its cadence to jazz drumming, complex, syncopated, hypnotic. Even police departments reported hearing a particular tone before high-speed pursuits began. Decades later, that same note still echoes through restorations and retro builds, each exhaust pulse a tribute to Honda's accidental orchestra. The CB750 didn't just sound different, it felt different. Smoother, faster, more civilized, yet untamed at full song. To this day, collectors say a properly tuned CB doesn't need to be seen. It announces itself in a rising chorus of metallic grace, one exhaust note at a time, whispering the origin story of speed itself. Number 14, the secret airbox that silenced the critics. When Honda unveiled the CB750, most riders marveled at its 4 cylinders, but few noticed the strange plastic box tucked beneath the tank, a revolutionary airbox system that baffled engineers from rival brands. Before the CB750, motorcycles relied on open air filters or crude velocity stacks that screamed through every throttle twist. Honda's design team, however, quietly installed an enclosed air chamber to smooth intake pulses and hush mechanical noise. It wasn't just for performance, it was for politeness. In the late 1960s, European noise restrictions were tightening, and Honda feared its new Superbike might be banned before it could dominate. So, engineers shaped a sealed resonance box that tuned airflow like an instrument, reducing intake roar while maintaining power. The weird part? This silencing solution accidentally improved mid-range torque and throttle response, making the CB750 smoother than any rival twin or triple. Some riders joked it inhaled like a gentleman and exhaled like a beast. The airbox's design became so influential that other manufacturers, from Kawasaki's Z1 to Suzuki's GS series, copied it almost immediately. Even today, restorers are stunned by the complexity hidden beneath what looks like a simple plastic cover. Honda's obsession with refinement, down to the breadth of the machine, set a new standard for engineering subtlety. The CB's balance of civility and fury changed perceptions. Superbikes didn't need to be crude to be fast. That quiet box under the tank wasn't just a noise solution. It was the heartbeat of Honda's philosophy. Power wrapped in precision, innovation disguised as simplicity. It's proof that sometimes what you don't hear is what makes history roar. Number 13. The bolt that almost killed the Superbike dream. Deep inside Honda's R&D center in Hamamatsu, during the final testing phase of the CB750, a single loose bolt nearly destroyed the entire project. Engineers were running endurance trials when, after only a few hundred miles, the engine began vibrating violently. Test riders reported a metallic clatter, like coins in a blender, and the crankcase started to weep oil. The weird twist? It wasn't a design flaw in the mighty inline-4. It was one misthreaded bolt in the primary drive housing. That one bolt caused an imbalance that cracked the prototype case, forcing a full teardown. In 1968, that setback almost convinced management to delay or cancel production. Honda's conservative executives feared that the world wasn't ready for such complexity, worrying that mass-produced four-cylinder motorcycles would be too fragile for real roads. But one stubborn engineer, Shoichiro Irimajiri, refused to quit. He redesigned the mounting system, altered vibration dampers, and even rebalanced the crankshaft by hand over 3 sleepless nights. The result was the smoothest production motorcycle engine ever made to that point, so refined that riders compared it to an electric motor. Ironically, the fatal bolt incident forced Honda to over-engineer the CB750's durability, giving it a legendary reputation for bulletproof reliability. Collectors still say it runs forever because one bolt didn't. Without that near disaster, the CB might never have earned its reputation as the first true superbike. Every twist of the throttle today, every smooth hum of that four-cylinder heart, echoes the night an engineer saved Honda's destiny with a wrench and a will. One loose bolt nearly ended a dream, but instead, it forged a legend of unstoppable precision. Number 12. The accidental speed record nobody planned. When the Honda CB750 first hit American soil, Honda expected respect, but not records. During early dealer demonstrations in 1969, journalists were invited to test the bike's unprecedented performance. What happened next shocked even the engineers. On a closed runway in California, a stock CB750, straight from the crate, hit a verified 125 miles per hour. That might not sound outrageous today, but back then, no production motorcycle had ever done it reliably without exploding its pistons or scattering its bearings across the tarmac. The weird twist? That record-breaking run wasn't part of the schedule. The test rider, motorcycle journalist Bob Green, got carried away, ignoring Honda's safety limit warning of 110 miles per hour. The stopwatch crew thought their equipment malfunctioned until repeated runs confirmed the truth. Honda had accidentally built the world's first mass-produced motorcycle, capable of sustained triple-digit speeds. And the best part, it didn't break. Rival manufacturers like Triumph and Harley-Davidson were furious, calling the test mechanically impossible. Honda's response was classic understatement. Perhaps our instruments are simply accurate. The CB's secret weapon lay in its perfectly balanced crankshaft and precise oil circulation system, allowing smooth, high-speed operation no rival could match. That unplanned record permanently redefined what a road bike could be. What started as a casual press day became a line in the sand. Before the CB750, speed belonged to racers. After it, speed belonged to everyone. It wasn't just the first superbike, it was the first time the open road heard the song of true velocity, born not in a lab, but in a moment of daring curiosity and accidental history. Number 11. The CB750 that saved a music festival. In the summer of 1971, a massive rock festival in Northern California nearly collapsed, not from riots or weather, but from silence. A generator failure had cut all power to the stage minutes before the headline act. As thousands waited, a nearby rider volunteered his brand new Honda CB750, claiming it could power the amps for a few minutes. The weird twist? He was right. Using its 12-volt charging system and a set of improvised leads, sound engineers drew enough current from the CB's alternator to run 2 microphones and a small speaker array. The band played an acoustic electric hybrid set. The crowd roared, and the festival was saved by a motorcycle. Journalists later dubbed it, "The night music ran on Honda power." Engineers who reviewed the story said it was technically improbable but not impossible. The CB's alternator output was unusually stable, thanks to Honda's automotive-style voltage regulation. That same reliability inspired later emergency response teams to use CB engines as portable power units in field kits. The festival bike itself, nicknamed Stage Hand, was photographed with burn marks on its wiring and a dented fuel tank, battle scars from its moment in rock history. Number 10. The police version with a siren that could stall the engine. When Honda released the CB750 to law enforcement departments worldwide, they modified it for police duty, adding lights, radios, and one very strange accessory, a mechanical siren driven by the rear wheel. The idea was clever. Instead of draining battery power, the siren spun directly from the wheel's rotation through a small metal gear, producing a wailing sound as the officer accelerated. The weird twist? If used too long at low speeds, the added drag could literally stall the engine. Officers in London and Tokyo quickly discovered that blipping the throttle kept the siren alive. Too little gas, and the CB coughed out mid-pursuit. Some departments even issued special training, teaching riders how to maintain engine RPM while operating the siren. The system was eventually replaced with an electric version after several reports of stalled chases. Yet, enthusiasts today consider those early mechanical siren CBS some of the rarest and coolest police bikes ever built. The siren itself, made of brass and steel, emitted an eerie tone that collectors describe as a scream between victory and chaos. Number 9. The test rider who rode a CB750 without oil. In the summer of 1969, deep within Honda's proving grounds in Suzuka, a young test rider named Kiyoshi Tada performed one of the strangest endurance experiments ever recorded. The engineers wanted to test the CB750's new oil circulation system, an intricate design that channeled lubricant through narrow internal galleries to keep all 4 cylinders perfectly cooled. But one day, in an accidental mix-up, a prototype engine was started with no oil at all. The weird twist? The bike kept running, smoothly, for nearly 20 minutes before anyone noticed. Most engines would have seized within seconds, but Honda's precision machining and tight tolerances allowed the engine to survive the ordeal with only minor scoring on the cam lobes. When they finally drained it, engineers found metal shavings but no catastrophic damage. Instead of embarrassment, the event became an engineering legend inside Honda. They rebuilt the motor, filled it properly, and it ran perfectly for another 10,000 test miles. Tada later admitted that he had suspected something was wrong when the engine smelled like a toaster, but the CB just refused to quit. That accidental torture test proved the incredible durability of Honda's design and became one of the main reasons journalists later called it the bulletproof Superbike. Modern restorers still marvel at how the oil pump and bearing design were decades ahead of their time, capable of surviving mistakes that would destroy other bikes. Number 8. The factory paint that changed color in the sun. Among the strangest details of the early Honda CB750 was its paint, specifically the shimmering candy colors that seemed to shift under sunlight. In 1969, Honda introduced a palette called Candy Ruby Red, Candy Gold, and Candy Blue Green. But what few riders realized was that these paints were layered using a secret multi-stage chemical process developed from automotive experiments. Each tank was first sprayed with a metallic silver base coat, then layered with a translucent dye and sealed under clear lacquer. The weird twist? That translucent pigment wasn't entirely stable. When exposed to strong ultraviolet light, the tone would gradually change over months, creating subtle color shifts unique to each bike. No 2 CB750s aged the same. Some turned from deep red to copper orange, others from green to turquoise. Honda noticed the anomaly but didn't fix it. Owners actually loved it. The shimmering transformation gave every motorcycle a sense of individuality, a living personality written by sunlight itself. Dealers even began advertising it as a self-evolving finish. Number 7. the speedometer, that lied to everyone. One of the strangest mysteries surrounding the Honda CB750 isn't hidden in its engine or frame. It's right in front of the rider's eyes. Early models came equipped with a mechanical speedometer that, quite literally, lied. In 1969, owners began noticing something odd. Their CBS seemed impossibly fast. A casual highway ride often showed speeds approaching 120 miles per hour, even when they were nowhere near it. The weird twist? Honda had intentionally calibrated the gauges to read high. Why? To make riders feel like they were flying. It was a subtle psychological trick inspired by Honda's racing division. The idea was that if riders believed their machine was faster, they would perceive smoother performance and superior engineering. In truth, the speedometers often exaggerated by as much as 10%. Journalists eventually caught on when radar tests revealed the discrepancy. But instead of outrage, the quirk became part of the CB's legend, an early example of engineering psychology. Honda quietly corrected the calibration in later models, but collectors today treasure those first lying gauges for their charm. The practice wasn't entirely deceitful. It ensured riders avoided dangerous underestimation of speed, a common safety flaw in that era. Still, the CB750's optimistic meters gave generations of riders bragging rights at every cafe stop. Proof, at least on paper, that they owned the world's fastest production bike. Number 6. The secret race team that built it in disguise. Behind the polished corporate image of Honda's CB750 lay a secret racing soul. In 1967, after Honda officially withdrew from racing to focus on production models, a handful of its top race mechanics and designers refused to stop building performance machines. Under the radar, they began sketching what they called Project Type 1, a street motorcycle with the power and precision of a racing machine. The weird twist? They pretended it was a commuter bike project to get funding. Using leftover parts and designs from Honda's legendary RC race engines, they created a detuned but incredibly sophisticated four-cylinder motor meant for everyday riders. When corporate executives finally discovered what they'd done, they were stunned. But the prototype was so refined that it was instantly approved for production. That secret race team had quietly changed motorcycle history. Without their rebellious innovation, the CB750 might never have existed. The fingerprints of racing are everywhere. The over-square bore and stroke ratio, the lightweight crank, the oiling channels modeled after the RC163, and even the gearbox design borrowed straight from track bikes. The engineers' identities were later revealed in a rare interview. Men like Shoichiro Irimajiri, who went on to design Honda's 6-cylinder CBX. Number 5, the dealership that sold one before Honda built it. In the spring of 1969, a small motorcycle dealer in Las Vegas accidentally made history by selling a Honda CB750 before Honda had even built the production version. The story sounds impossible, but it's true. The dealer, eager to impress local racers and investors, displayed a pre-production photo of the new 4-cylinder super machine sent from Japan as part of a promotional packet. The weird twist? A wealthy customer walked in, saw the image, and immediately slapped down a cash deposit, demanding to buy the first one in America. Not wanting to lose the sale, the dealer agreed, wrote up the paperwork, and even threw in a mock warranty, though the bike didn't yet exist outside a prototype room in Hamamatsu. Weeks later, when Honda's US headquarters heard about the premature sale, panic erupted. No shipment date had been finalized, and the first production units were still undergoing final testing. To save face, Honda air freighted one of the earliest sandcast prototypes directly to Nevada, a move that cost more than the motorcycle itself. That single unit, with a rough-finished engine case and hand-stamped VIN, became the very first CB750 officially sold to a customer. The buyer reportedly never wrote it, preserving it as a technological artifact. Decades later, historians confirmed the story after finding the original dealer invoice and shipping documents in Honda's archives. That phantom sale sparked one of the most chaotic launches in motorcycle history, forcing Honda to accelerate global production by months. Number 4. The engine. So smooth that pilots used it for airplanes. Of all the strange things that happened after the Honda CB750 conquered the roads, perhaps the weirdest is what happened in the skies. In the early 1970s, aviation hobbyists began experimenting with small ultralight aircraft, and they discovered that the CB750's engine was almost too perfect for flight. Its balance, reliability, and compact design made it one of the smoothest internal combustion engines ever made for its size. The weird twist? Honda never approved it for aviation use. Yet that didn't stop dozens of builders from mounting CB750 motors on experimental aircraft, gyrocopters, and even home-built helicopters. They claimed the engine ran cooler and smoother than dedicated aircraft units twice the price. One engineer in Oregon famously flew over 100 hours with a CB750-powered ultralight he named Heavens 4, documenting every flight to prove its durability. Others used twin-engine setups for redundancy, calling them the poor man's jet. Aviation authorities were astonished by the results. This street bike engine, designed for asphalt, was effortlessly holding steady in thin air. Some pilots even reported that the vibration levels were lower than comparable Rotax aircraft engines. It became a cult phenomenon, though Honda quietly discouraged it, citing liability concerns. The legend grew anyway, turning the CB750 into an unlikely symbol of mechanical immortality. Number 3. The prototype that hid its electric start from everyone. When Honda engineers unveiled the CB750 in 1969, the world gasped at its electric start, a first for a large-capacity four-cylinder motorcycle. What nobody knew was that the electric starter almost didn't make it into production. In early prototypes, Honda had hidden the starter system completely, afraid that journalists and rival manufacturers would ridicule the idea. At the time, purists believed that real riders kicked their engines to life, and using a button was for beginners. The weird twist. Honda disguised the starter housing inside what looked like an ordinary engine cover during early test runs. When magazines later photographed the prototype, nobody noticed that a small wire led from the crankcase to an unseen solenoid. Engineers secretly tested the mechanism for months, pressing a hidden button under the tank to start the bike. The decision to include it came after a critical meeting in Tokyo, when a Honda executive insisted that the Superbike should feel as civilized as a car, but faster than fear. That electric starter became the ultimate statement of engineering confidence, a machine so powerful, yet so refined, that even beginners could command it with one touch. Rivals mocked the idea at first, but by the mid-70s, every major manufacturer followed suit. The hidden prototype still exists today in Honda's internal collection, with a removable starter cover showing where history quietly turned. Number 2. The CB that survived being buried underground. Few machines have stories as bizarre as the Honda CB750 that literally rose from the earth. In 1974, a small-town dealer in Oklahoma held a publicity stunt to promote Honda's growing reputation for durability. The plan was outrageous. Bury a brand new CB750 under the ground for a decade, seal it in a steel box, and unearth it in the future to prove it could survive time itself. The weird twist. The stunt was forgotten, completely. The dealership closed 2 years later, and the buried motorcycle became a local legend whispered about in biker circles. Then, in 1989, construction workers digging near the old lot struck metal and uncovered the sealed crate. Inside, under rust and clay, sat the CB750, remarkably intact. The chrome had dulled, the tires were stone, but the frame and engine were still solid. Even stranger, after cleaning the carbs, adding fresh oil and replacing the spark plugs, the engine turned over and ran. The discovery stunned vintage collectors and confirmed what enthusiasts had said for decades. Honda had overbuilt the CB beyond reason. That buried bike, now nicknamed the Iron Time Capsule, is displayed in a private collection, still showing the marks of soil and oxidation as badges of immortality. Number 1. The secret CB750 that never existed on paper. At the top of the weirdest facts list lies a machine so mysterious that even Honda's archives deny its existence, the phantom CB750R. In the early 1970s, whispers spread among Japanese mechanics of a race-spec version of the CB, built in secret for Honda's executives and elite test riders. Unlike the production Superbike, this one featured magnesium engine covers, a higher compression ratio, and experimental carburetors borrowed from Honda's Grand Prix division. The weird twist. There are no official production records, no serial numbers, and no factory documentation. Yet, at least one authenticated example surfaced in a private collection in Nagoya, bearing parts and welds unseen on any production model. Historians suspect that a handful, perhaps fewer than 5, were hand-built to test future performance concepts. When Honda transitioned to the CB750F and later the six-cylinder CBX, these shadow prototypes quietly vanished. The lone surviving unit reportedly still runs, its owner refusing to display it publicly. Engineers who worked at Honda during that era quietly refer to it as the ghost bike, acknowledging its existence only in private interviews. And there you have it, 20 weird, fantastic, and downright unbelievable facts about the Honda CB750, the motorcycle that changed everything. From buried bikes to ghost prototypes, this machine's legacy still hums louder than ever. But here's the real question. Which of these facts blew your mind the most? Or did we miss one you know about? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this deep ride through motorcycle history, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories from the world's most legendary machines.